Hello there, Leveaux here. So, here's the information that I have yet to give out. How in the world did I start in doing what it is that I do? And what is it that I do? Well, I ensure that experts get the visibility and profitability that they deserve without coaching. I will say that again. I ensure that experts get the visibility and profitability that they deserve without coaching. How in the world did I start in that? How did that happen? Well, it started 20 years ago. 20 years ago, I was 22 years old. At that time, I was definitely a multipreneur. I had a daycare center, a commercial janitorial company, as well as a cultural regalia store. So, in this store that was in the shopping mall, we sold Black art, multicultural art, as well as fraternity and sorority collector items, so everything that was inspired by the organizations under the umbrella called the Divine Nine. So at that time, being 22, people are asking me questions like, Asa, how in the world are you doing this? How can I do this? And so I simply tell them, I do not understand gatekeeping at all. I didn't understand it then. I don't understand it now. Why are we just not telling the people the thing that we know? And so, um, based on that, telling and willingness to tell people what you have to do and what you can do to get things going, and being completely unattached to my advice, which I think is very important. Being completely unattached, like once it leaves your mouth, do with it what they can do whatever with it. It's no longer um, the totality of who you are. And so I then learned that people pay for that. I was like, no, people don't pay for that, but yes, they do. People pay for that. And so as a result of that, I became a coach and I began to coach people on different things. It started overall, the whole thing has been business, but it has not always looked that way, or it has looked differently. So I first started out by saying, okay, I want you to be happy in business. And so I was all about you finding your bliss. And I thought that was it. And it wasn't it. And then I was like, okay, let me get a little bit better. I want to help you understand your genius. And what I was doing when I was supporting people with understanding their genius, I was supporting them with understanding the niche that they could get rich from. And so, your niche within your industry, I was very good at uncovering that from a series of questions that I developed. I'm still very good at that. After that, my focus began to be all about how do I support you in creating your first $10,000 in business. And so it was all about startup creation, from the ideation phase to actually the thing becoming realized, meaning you now have a business, meaning someone has now paid you for the thing that you say you desire. And so then right after that, I was like, you know what? I'm finding some friction, some agitation in the market. What if I simply remove the agitation and begin to do things for people? And so there was no coaching. I was actually now the service provider. Like I was actually doing the task instead of coaching people because I was becoming disillusioned. And so I was thinking, okay, if you aren't going to do what I tell you to do, again, totally removed from the advice, but if you're not going to do it, it doesn't help you. And the whole point here is to support you, to move you from this point to this point. And so I was like, okay, I can do better. And how I became better was doing things for people. And so in that stage of going from the helping the startup first 10,000 and supporting people with done for you, I during the whole span of it, I was going to conferences, business conferences. So if there's a conference that has been going on consistently for about 10 years, I've gone to 75% to 80% of all of them. I'm not necessarily a conference junkie, but I do like people. I am in love with people. I think people are amazing. And so, what that showed me, and what I love to see people sell from the stage. I adore it. Maybe because it brings me back to growing up in the church. And so when you have something like an anniversary service or an auxiliary service, especially growing up in Church of God in Christ in the 80s and 90s, um, a part of that really was selling from the stage. Like, what can you say from the pulpit or what can you say from the podium to get people to dig a little deeper? So I had been groomed on how to do that, but it was attached to spirituality, and this was not. This is pure capitalism. And I was like, okay, I like the pitch moment. I love being in a conference, especially the more people, the better. But the small ones, oh, those are chef's kiss, surely. So that moment when they're telling people what's available, and then of course seeing people run to the back or come to the front, whatever that is. I love those moments to see the first stage of transformation take place. And what I was beginning to notice over time is that of course there are multiple types of people in a conference usually, especially the bigger you go. And what I was seeing is there is this group, a sect of individuals, so the experts, the startup founders, the executives, the ones that actually have the funds but don't have the time, they were really the ones saying yes to this premier coaching offer. Now, because, I was going to many conferences, I would see them and I would ask them questions. So how's the thing going that you said yes to? And more times than not, they were disillusioned. They understood, they became aware that what they had invested in was actually access to the person that sold them from the stage. That's fine. That is fine. I have no qualms about that. And still, that's what they received. They did not think that that was going to be the totality of their receiving. And so what did not happen was they did not receive the assets to build a brand and a business. They received access, not assets. And so my thinking is if I see a possibility, why not mind the gap, as they would say, when you're getting on a train in London, like mind the gap. If there is a gap and you can see the gap, think about that. What can you do for that gap? And so House of Icons came from the minding of that particular gap. And so when I say that, the Icon team and I are all about ensuring that experts have the visibility and profitability that they deserve, without coaching, that's what I'm speaking to. Because I understand if you are an expert, if you are a startup founder with capital, if you are an executive, someone who's moving from the corporate life into business life, you do not, literally, do not have the time nor the experience at the scale you desire to get the book done, to go through the different vendors as far as getting your photo shoots done, making sure that you have creative direction around that shoot, making sure that you get the press, again, getting that book out, getting you booked on stages, the key elements to speaking, like do you know how to anchor the stage? Do you know how to do that? For instance, and so making sure that we just do all of that for you so you don't have to worry or concern yourself with the minutia of what it takes to truly be a celebrity expert in your industry. That's what we just provide you. So that's how I got started. I would love to support you. The information is are posted. Please go there. But you can also find me because I am responsive on pretty much any platform out there. And I would love to support you sooner than later. As always, dreams and radical blessings.